We said we saved the best for last. At least that's what Coach Maib and I think. Thank you all very much for sticking around to the end of the conference here. We really appreciate it. And thank you even more so for attending the conference. My name is Sandy Abney, Assistant Head Strength and Conditioning Coach at the University of Texas. We're going to talk to you guys about mentoring today. Do we have any master strength coaches in the audience? I know each one of you can relate to that line in that song. We started from the bottom. And had it not been for great mentors in our life, we wouldn't be where we are here today. So what we want to do today is talk to you about mentoring. But we want to break it down, and using the metaphor of the body, we want to talk about the head, the heart, and the hands. So if you're a mentor or a mentee out in the audience today, we want you to leave with some practical tools that you can use in either bettering your internship program or as a mentee, some practical skills that you can take to make your internship experience better. I've been coaching now for about 15 years. I actually started way back in 1996 at Texas State. As many of you, probably college athletes. I was a gym rat, track and field athlete, a competitive power lifter at the time. And I was always in the weight room, and my strength coach said, you know, why don't you come work for me? And I thought, you mean I get to hang out in the weight room and get paid for this? He said, absolutely. I said, I'm in. Let's do this. So I was there for a year. I got out, got into cardiac rehabilitation, worked exercise physiology for a couple years. And then in 1999, ran into Coach Angel Spazoff. Some of you folks that are older in the room may recognize that name. And he approached me at the USA Weightlifting National Championships and asked if I was interested in getting back in the field. And I said, absolutely. So that brought me to the University of Texas. And so I've been there now, like I said, for 15 years, and am happy to be the assistant head coach and now the internship coordinator. So without further ado, to my right.
I'm Coach Donnie Maib, the head athletic performance coach, University of Texas. Thank you, Coach Abney. Hope you enjoyed our introduction. We are very passionate about starting from the bottom and climbing, so that's kind of been our path, as many of yours. Officially, again, welcome. I'd like to give you a little bit of background on how I got started, really short. I actually got into strength training in high school really, really big. Actually, if you go back, I had a pretty rough family life growing up. My family divorced really early, so I didn't have a lot of outlets to kind of deal with some of that. So I got into lifting early in ninth grade, and actually had a guy downtown who was a bail bondsman who started training me one-on-one, and that's how I caught the bug. And then the bus would actually drop me off in the ninth grade at the high school really early because I lived out in the country. Anybody live out in the country? I lived out in the country. It was country dark when you went to bed at night. And when I would get to school, everybody's standing around talking, but I had 45 minutes before class. So I walked down the hall and the weight room was empty, and I just started training on my own. So that's kind of how I got my start. I was so weak I was on the football team, so we had groups. And I was in the last group. They actually put us out in the hall. The weak guys were out in the hall. We didn't even get to lift with the team coach. And so I was out in the hall, and that really gave me a drive to work my way up. Ended up being the strongest player there at our school in the history when I left there in 1988. I got a full scholarship, University of Georgia. That same passion took me. I was undersized. I'll never forget the first guy I went against was 305-pound Johnny P. Giles, the starting D tackle from the University of Georgia. Bill Goldberg, you ever heard of Bill Goldberg? I had to go against him every day, and he smashed me. I mean, look bad, coach, look bad. And so I just started training and got into bodybuilding and powerlifting, and got to a point in my career I was frustrated. My performance started to go down. I was 275, could lift the house. And so that's when I met EJ Doc Crease. Anybody know Doc Crease? That's my man now. We got a lot of history together, and I went and trained with him at Middle Tennessee State for one summer, changed my whole performance, my career, and came back and started for the next 2 seasons, University of Georgia. Took on an internship at the University of Colorado. Doc already told me one day in the weight room, if you ever want to work in this field, I'll help you. Just remind me if you want to do that. So I remember that, took the job, interned at Colorado. The first 2 years I almost quit because Doc was driving me crazy, and we'll get into that later. Took the job at University of Texas under Coach Jeff Madden in 1998, worked my way up to top assistant, working with all kinds of sports and football, made the transition of 12, 13 over to Olympic sports, and so I started at the bottom, and we're here.
So we've heard a recurring theme through some of the presentations that you've heard about mentoring today, and it is so true that there's nothing new out there. You take what you know and what you've learned and you pass that down to others. And that's the essence of mentoring.
Before you play this video, I want to set this up. No better analogy to make it simple. Any Star Wars fans in here, raise your hand, 2 hands. Now, if you raise 2 hands, you're a little bit of a junkie. We'll get you some counseling later. But I love Star Wars. This is a clip I'm going to play of Yoda, who is a master Jedi Knight. Master Yoda, you would refer to him if you were to speak to him. And he's training a young Padawan, up-and-coming Jedi that's cocky, arrogant, doesn't believe in himself. And in this clip, he travels across space, right, to work with Yoda and to learn from him. And this is a clip here I want to play, and I'll feed off that once he finishes. Go ahead, sir.
Always with you what cannot be done. Hear you nothing that I say. You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
That is an awesome clip right there. If you don't get pumped up about mentoring, when you watch Master Yoda mentor, you got a problem. You don't want to mentor. The great thing about Master Yoda in this clip is what? If you watch that clip, the rest of it, he allows his mentee to do what? To fail. Teach them how to fail forward. Don't let them take it personal. Don't hammer your mentees when they make a mistake. He did a great job of letting him fail, letting him figure out who he was as a person. We need to let our mentees figure out who they are as a coach and grow from that. The other thing we see here is that great mentors see potential in young coaches. They're rough around the edges, but man, they're going to be great one day. If you'll just spend time, energy, and invest all that in their lives, one day they'll grow up and they'll be a phenomenal coach. So it's easy to see a coach that's awesome, that's flashy, knows everything, take him and develop him, but finding young mentees, bring them under your wing, rough, and teach them and coach them, and they turned out to be a Jedi Knight.
So as the slide says, always pass on what you have learned. I've had a lot of great mentors in my coaching career. One of the most influential ones was Coach Larry Leverman from Texas State University. And back in 1996, when he saw me as that young track athlete and power lifter living in the weight room all the time, he used to have to kick me out of the weight room. He saw something in me. So he brought me in under his wing. I had just graduated undergrad, brought me on part-time. I thought I knew training. Like I said, I lived in the weight room, but I had never written a workout before for a team. Back then, internships programs it's not like it is nowadays. And so he brought me in, and I failed many a times, and he picked me up and dusted me back off. The one thing that I always respected about Coach Leverman is he never tore me down. He never beat me down. He never, beat me up. He was always uplifting to me, encouraging to me. He took the time. He took time to sit down and explain things to me. He would challenge me. I'd write these programs. I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I'd bring it in, and he'd tear it apart. He'd make me defend why I was doing what I was doing, and I had to learn why that was wrong. So I taught the correct way to do things. As time went on and trust was built, he gave me more and more opportunities to lead the teams, and before I knew it, I was running teams myself, starting to program on my own. The more ownership he gave me in the teams, the more motivation it was for me to excel in every aspect of coaching. And so that's the thing that I've taken from Coach Larry Leverman, and when I work with young people, is taking that time to sit down, explaining things to them, to really help them out and to give them some ownership in the teams. And that really helps. For those of you that are at smaller schools, you probably already know this. If you have mentors, mentees, they can be a tremendous help to you. So take them in, bring them in, and let them do the work. Let them grow as a coach.
So before we keep moving, I want to stop for a minute. I want to ask you a question. This is really about you today as coaches. Who are you mentoring? If I ask you right now, and we're going to take a little test, or inventory. Write down the names of who you're mentoring right now. Pass them to the inside out. Who wouldn't pass sheets down? Because really, somebody helped you get to where you're at. Why would you not help somebody else get to where they're at? Because if you really want to be a great coach, you are going to help other young coaches get in this profession and grow. I know there's different people I've seen that's interned with us. Zach Margolis is full-time at Northern Colorado. He's one that did an outstanding job. And real quick point here, Coach, we talk about this. You're going to bring in mentors or mentees sometimes that are smarter than you, and you can learn from them. That's called reverse mentoring. Am I right or wrong? There's some of our mentees that are just so sharp. I learn more from them sometimes than that they actually teach them. So it goes both ways.
So as Coach Maib was saying, beyond just the coaching, teaching the sets and the reps and the workouts, as a mentor, you need to make sure that you're teaching these young coaches, giving them the global view of coaching. So when these athletes walk in the door, having that understanding of what their academic schedule looks like. You know, at UT, we have a very demanding academic schedule. So taking that into account, taking into account their practice, the study hall that they have to do, the social life that they have. Sometimes they have too much of that. Taking all of that stuff into effect, talking about the team dynamics. You know, if you've got a cancer in your team and that creates all kinds of controversy, that can really implode a team. So getting them to understand that. One of the things I do with our interns is we'll meet before every training session. We'll meet 15, 20 minutes before, and I talk about everything going on in that day. Or if we have a issue that's going on, I'll update them on that so that they can understand why Susie is bawling her eyes out over there and she's about to try and hit 95% on squats. Well, you know what? Susie just lost her father 2 weeks ago. You know, so being able to give them a full picture of everything that's going on so that intern is better prepared and how to help those athletes. That's part of what we're talking about in that global view. Teaching them professionalism, teaching them how to communicate, those types of things. So really going beyond the sets and the reps and the how to build the workouts to help to develop these young coaches.
Brief history of mentoring. Mentoring, the first time the word mentor appeared was in Homer's poem, The Odyssey. And there was the Trojan War was going on, and Ulysses went out to battle, and he left his son at home, Telemachus. And there was a young man by the name of Mentor that actually oversaw Telemachus. He actually failed in his duties to take care of his son, so it was the goddess Athena who came in and picked up the towel, right? Those ladies, where we at today, baby? Where we at? You got to always pick up the towel, right, of the guys when we drop it. So she actually came in and she could transform herself. So she transformed herself into Mentor and actually oversaw and raised him, became a trusted counselor, a friend, and a guide while the Trojan War was going on.
Mentoring is a fundamental form of human development where one person invests time, energy, personal know-how in assisting the growth and ability of another person. How many of you out there right now are in charge of your internship programs and your mentoring? So you know it takes a tremendous amount of time. Now, how many of you are not only the internship coordinator, but you're also the coach, and you've got teams that you're running, and maybe you're the director? Do we have any directors that are leading their entire department and doing their mentorships? I commend you guys. It is a tremendous amount of work, and it takes a tremendous amount of energy and discipline. I had no clue how time-consuming and how much energy it took to be an internship coordinator. I commend you on that, Donnie. I was like, yeah, I'll take it. That's awesome. Man, it is a lot of work if you want to build a great internship program. One of the other things that you have to have is discipline. You have to make sure that you set time aside. I personally block out time in my calendar each week to make sure that I'm meeting with our interns or we have group projects that we're working on. You have to be careful that you don't let paperwork precede people work, right? If we're in the business of mentoring, people work has to come before paperwork.
Okay, go ahead. Some famous examples of mentoring, passing down to mentees, Socrates and Plato. Philosophy, Haydn and Beethoven. Classical music, Freud and Jung, psychology. And then think of coaches. Think of the coaching trees that you know that they've passed down information. They've raised up young coaches and made them better. And they're the coaches they are today because of the mentors that's been placed in their life. And I always like to say it's not the quantity of people that you have in your life. It's the quality of people you surround your life with. Very important. So real quick, a little involvement here. Who's had a great mentor before? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Don't be ashamed. I'm going to just call on a couple of you here. Just say their first name. Raise your hand if you want to say that. What's their name? Tom. What was the other one? Doc. Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? Dave Williams. Give me some names. Sandy and Donnie. We'll pay you afterwards, baby. Yes, sir. Who was it? Nate. Nate Moe in the house. Anybody else? Raise your hand. Terry Jones. Yes, sir. John Stuckey. Yes, sir. Who'd you say? Eric Cressy. One more. Give me one more great mentor. Yes, sir. Tommy Heffernan. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
So as we mentioned in the opening, we're using this metaphor of the body to break down mentoring and talking about the head, the heart, and the hands. So we want to move in to the head part of it here. Next slide. Let's look at this very first sentence here. Interns are a reflection of your staff. Think about that for 1 minute. That can be pretty powerful because what you guys are doing in your internship programs and building these young coaches is the legacy that you're creating for how you're running your program, the type of culture that you have in your facility. You know, how do you want to be viewed as mentors? So you really have to make sure that you're understanding the business and helping these young coaches to understand the business. We have a saying at Texas that every day is an interview. We tell our interns this. We actually live by this. I will give you this perfect example. We have a brand new facility, Olympic sports facility built, 8,500 square feet. It's beautiful, and it's just for Olympic sports. What we never saw that would happen is that facility has become a showroom for administrators, for VIPs, donors, movie stars. Anybody watch Jimmy Kimmel? No one watches Jimmy Kimmel. Anybody see Coach Maib on the Kimmel Show? So my point is, we always have folks coming through, and it's gotten to where it's a weekly basis now. We're giving tours to groups of influential people. So we have to make sure we're on our A game daily. And so these, you know, the professionalism and how we're talking to people, our dress and our appearance, that may seem simple, but you only get one chance to make a first impression. So we don't want our interns rolling out of bed with crinkly clothes on and bedhead coming to work. You know, we've got to look sharp and ready to go. It's those little bitty details that go in to developing the head of the internship program. Our people skills, that's huge. Like I said, we have administrators coming in. Donnie and I have seen our athletic directors more in this past year that we've been in the facility than we have ever seen in the 15, 16 years we have been at the University of Texas. And they most definitely are going to interact with everybody in there. So teaching these interns how to speak to these folks, giving them opportunities to do that.
I love quotes. I'm a big quote guy if you've ever spent time around me. There's one I want to add that's not up here. The Law of the Inner Circle by John C. Maxwell says this: your success and potential as a leader, your success and potential as a leader is directly related to your inner circle. So I want you to evaluate who do you have surrounding you right now as a coach, because that's going to impact your level. A couple other quotes here. No one learns as much about a subject as one who is forced to teach it. I'll never forget in 1995, I took karate, Kempo karate for years, and my instructor told me this. Because I was a coach, I couldn't make the classes. He pulled me to the side after class one night and said, Donnie, if you really want to learn and grow as a practitioner, you need to start teaching. And I took it to heart. I went back, I actually started a class in Boulder and worked up about 8 students in karate, worked one of them all the way up to purple belt and tested them myself. You know what happened every time I'd go back to class in Denver every couple months? I was surpassing those that were going once a week meeting with my instructor. Why? Because I was teaching what I had known. Same thing. What are you teaching? You can read only so many books. At some point, you need to teach what you know to somebody else. That's how you learn it at a different level. Second quote, tell me and I forget, teach me I may remember, involve me and I may learn. If you take me fishing, I'm gonna have a meal for that night. But if you teach me to fish, I'll eat for a lifetime.
So our first point was the head of mentoring. So teaching, developing the professionalism. Let's move into our second point, which is the heart. So these are some things that Coach Maib and I feel go into the heart of a good mentor. So behavioral interviewing. You know, some of the things that we started doing now with technology is we do Skype interviews for our interns that are coming in. And it's been a tremendous help for us. You know, you want to make sure that you're selecting candidates that are going to be a good fit for your program. Having a selection process. I cannot stress how important this is. It definitely takes some time on the front end, but it will pay off huge for you on the back end when you get a good, strong candidate in there that's really going to help you. You know, if you get a bad intern in there, they can make your workload even more, right? And those of you guys that are handling everything, the last thing you want is more of a load on your plate. So having a selection process is huge. Caring about your interns. How do you spell care? T-I-M-E. Time. You've got to take the time. And it sounds simple, but it's easy to get in the game and you're going, and then you forget that you haven't really spent any time that day or that week with your intern because you've been so busy trying to get things done. Really having to block that stuff out, that's been what's been helpful for me. And lastly, do not abuse your interns. Do not ask them to do personal things for you. Keep it professional.
Hold on, Coach. Oh, stop. Time out. I got to share. I mean, that right there just set off something in me. Sorry, Coach. I apologize. Has anybody met Doc Reese? Come on now, raise your hand. Do you know Doc? I told Doc I was going to hate on him. He left already. It's recorded, Doc. You can see this down the road. I'm going to roast you right here, Doc. So I interned in 1994, Coach. Let's go over what I did at my internship program real quick. Let's get real right here, all right? Number one, he had 2 kids, EJ and Taylor. You're looking at the nanny right here. I paint basketball court lines at his house, his garage. I picked up boots for him in Denver. I took his kids to Dairy Queen. Doc would give me money. He's like, Donnie, go get him some cones. And he would give me like $5. It cost like $10 for the cones. Like, I ain't making no money, Coach. Give me some. How am I going to feed me? You name it, I hung up 100+ pictures in his office. Now, I'm telling you that to be real and to be funny. You can't do that today, but you know what? My internship experience shaped who I am as a coach, and I value. Thank you, Doc. Sorry, Coach, I had to kind of vent for a minute there. Thank you.
Keep on, you're on a roll.
All right, the heart of a mentee. So now let's talk about when you're looking at your mentees, right? What are you looking for in a mentee? Well, number one, do they have a passion to coach? And when I say passion to coach, here's what I mean. Do your mentees have strong character? And do they care about people? Do they genuinely care about kids? If they don't bring them in your room. You don't need to bring in a mentee that wants to get new exercises for their business. Hello? Or to get new information so that they can go out and find their best job. No, they need to bloom where they're planted. They need to come in and not have these wings that they want to get their stuff and fly out. Do they have strong character? Do they have a passion to coach? Are they humble? You know, today, you're seeing this, I feel like, in young coaches. They have a ton of knowledge and information, but they lack immaturity. They lack maturity. They are very immature. They're cocky, they're arrogant because they know so much, but they lack the humility. And what I mean by humility is it's not about them. They're there to serve those kids, to serve your staff, and to make it better. Are they honest? If you interview somebody and there's a gut feeling that something, you need to listen to that gut feeling. There's something in them, in their character, that's telling you, do not fool with them. Listen to it. Hardworking. Do they show up early? Do they stay late? Do they do the little things? Do they know how to keep boundaries with your athletes? Do they go out and party on the weekend? Do they know how to properly talk to the athletes like a coach and not like a peer? That's a lot of things that take a while to learn. Can they keep those boundaries? And like I said, can they take initiative? Do we have to come in every day and say, did you do this? Did you do this? Or do they do it on their own? I know Sarah's here in the audience. She started out as an intern. She's one of our assistants now. Sarah is awesome. She is always looking for things to help with. She's a lifter. You have to have two types of mentees in your program. You got lifters who make our job easier, or you got leaners. You spend more time trying to address that than you do anything. So those are some key points when you're looking at your young mentees.
So let's move into our third point of mentoring, the hands. So this is where the practical skills come in, practical tools for coaching. So shadowing coaches. I mean, it sounds simple. Coaches, when you have your interns shadowing you, don't just ignore them and be annoyed because they're following you. You know, maybe lay some ground rules with them and let them know, hey, you can hang with me, listen to everything I'm saying, but do not ask me a question right in the middle of while I'm coaching. Okay? That makes us mad. All right? So lay those groundworks with your interns. Let them know what's good to do, what's not to do, and then let them shadow you. Let them help you out. Teach them, explain why you're doing what you're doing. Maybe do that before you actually even get out on the floor so that they understand and they've got a full picture of what's going on for that workout for the day. Next, doing workouts themselves. I heard Rachel Ellsworth from A&M say this in the female breakfast this morning. You got to lift heavy. And I'm sorry, I'm a little biased because I'm a weightlifter myself, but if you don't train and you don't know how to lift a heavy load, you're not going to understand when your athlete has to get under that heavy load. You got to have just a little bit of crazy to get under these heavy barbells sometimes, okay? It definitely takes, and Coach Cross, he talked about it too. Ethan Reeves talked about it. You got to have, there's a little something there you got to have, and if you've never experienced that before, how are you going to be able to relate to your athletes when you're trying to coach them? So make your interns train. Learning how to teach. You know, God love them, the interns, they'll, helping out, and they want to just tell everything they know about the power clean to an athlete, and then the athlete's standing there and they have no idea what to do. So one thing I do with my young coaches, young interns, and even with my athletes is I'll spoon feed them. I'll give them a little bit at a time. Let them digest that, process it, and then I give them a little bit more, and then a little bit more. So make sure you're taking the time to help these young coaches understand how to teach, how to give simple cues. Keep it simple for these athletes. Don't get all complex, or they don't want to know the angle of this and that. Just tell them what to do. Keep it simple. Evaluating body movements, proper progressions, and relating to athletes. So these are just some of the things that we look at in part of developing the practical skills in the hands portion.
So if I could make it very simple, this is the slide here. I love to make complex things. If you could take this one slide, you could easily, these 5 points right here, and implement some level with your internship program when you get back. First line there is what? I do, you watch. Just have them in the room. Let them watch you coach. Let them watch your staff coach. Let them watch how you interact with athletes. In karate, there's 3 perspectives when you teach in karate. There's me, the student, the instructor. The third perspective in karate is the one that just watches. Most people learn the best by observation. So I do and you watch. Just have them shadow. I do, you help. At some point, take the next step. Involve them in helping. Maybe it's set up the room. Maybe it's take roll. Maybe it's get the foam rollers out. I don't know what it could be. Maybe it's run some paperwork for you. Get them involved and give them ownership of what you're doing and let them help. Now, once they get good enough with what you've given them and you've earned your trust, you do, I help. And this is where we miss it. You've got to let them take your program or something that they've developed and you come and assist them. That's a great time for feedback. right? Everybody say feedback is a gift. See, we don't like sometimes when people say things to us, but it's wrapped in a bow and somebody's giving you. There's something in that feedback, it may be 10% that you're denouncing or throwing out, that you didn't like the 90, the bow it was wrapped in the bag. Feedback is a gift. You do, I help, give them feedback. You do, I watch, you get away from them. And that's another great time to give them feedback. And then the last one is you do. Every great parent, I'm married with 4 daughters. Now let me ask you a question. You think I want my 4 girls living with me when they turn 18, 19, and 20, 35? You come on in and see all my 4 girls. Here's their bedrooms. I'm still feeding them, clothing them, buying all. No, I am trying to train them up to spread their wings and fly. One of my favorite things about eagles, I love little analogies. Mama eagles are awesome. When their babies get grown, they get big, they make their little nest fluffy and happy, and they feed them, and their little mouth open, they feeding them. But that eagle getting big now, Mama says, you getting big, baby. It's time to fly. So she actually starts taking the nest out and puts things in it that are sharp, that are uncomfortable. And if that baby eaglet won't fly, she's a good mama. Everybody say tough love. She will grab that eagle by the neck, fly out, and drop that baby off the cliff. You would say, oh, that's mean. No, that's a good mama right there. If that eagle doesn't fly, she swoops down, saves its life, flies up higher, drops her again. And eventually, guess what? The eagles fly. Your interns need to fly at some point when you release them. If they've been with you for years, get them out of there. They've been under your little wing. They're all fat and sassy and walking around, know everything. Get them out of your weight room and send them somewhere else. Me? Oh, it's me again. Sorry. So, transition here. We gave you the head, heart, and hands. Now, let's give you some tools. These are practical tools and some ideas for you to take back. Gave you some good information. Now, here's some tools. Selection process. Again, why are they coaching? Check their background. Figure out as much as you can about their background, where they've been, what they've done. Look for maybe if they're involved in some nonprofit organizations. Look for maybe they worked at a restaurant. Talk to their supervisor there. Figure out how to get more information about them. Application. This is something that Coach Abney has built, and it is phenomenal, of what are the qualifications and skills needed. Maybe you guys have different needs than we have. Maybe you have different qualifications. One thing Coach Abney's done, she has definitely raised the standard on getting in our internship program. It's a lot harder because you know what? Not everybody needs to be on your team. And so the application, do your homework, references, interviews, Skype, she said, in person or on the phone. Check social media. Now check this out. A lot of your mentees are on social media. By law, you cannot command or expect them to clean up that social media. It's actually against the law. Check with your HR department on that and they'll tell you. But what you can do is get on there and just background check it without telling them. If there's flags on there, listen. It's shouting at you. And then lastly, be picky. There's a great book I highly recommend on leadership, Donald T. Phillips, and it's called Lincoln on Leadership. Donald T. Phillips, Lincoln on Leadership, one of the best leadership books I've ever read. He's got a chapter in there, he says, don't stop until you find your grant. And in this chapter, Abraham Lincoln was so persistent, he kept firing general after general after general to lead the war until he found his what? USS Grant. He wanted to find the right general to lead his army in the war, and he didn't stop until he found that one person. You would be better off going with no interns than bringing one in. You're going to spend 80% of your time managing that intern. You might as well just do it by yourself. So be picky.
I'm going to go off here a little bit. I'm going to deviate. Are you okay with that? Mm-hmm. You good? All right. So, right here, onboarding process. Coach Maib mentioned HR. Okay? We have a great opportunity right now at the University of Texas. Our athletic department is creating its internship policy department-wide. Okay? Those of you that have been sitting in a lot of the presentations today, one of the consistent themes has been, what can we do to improve our situation? We've heard the word visibility, okay? We have an internship manual. We had this way before our athletic department had any kind of formal internship policy. When they were starting to create their policy department-wide, Guess who they called? They called the strength and conditioning department. We had an opportunity. This has been taken all the way up the chain to the athletic directors. Tell me that doesn't bode well for our department and showing how professional we are. So having an internship manual is a great start. The other reason we put this together is because I'm not going to be here forever. When we leave, this manual is still going to be here in place for you guys. When you're in our spot, you can pick this thing up and keep it growing and keep it rolling and build from there. So if you don't have one, please come take a look at it. You can email me. I'll email you the whole thing. You can use this one, just change the names. Okay? Another thing is the background checks. If you're not already doing those, I would strongly encourage you to. You need to do that, one, first and foremost, to protect the safety of your athletes, to protect the safety of your staff as well. Those are easy to do. Join with your HR department. You will be amazed at how much information and software tools your HR department has that you can utilize for your internship program that will help not take so much of your time. So that's what we're actually in the middle of working on that right now, and we're very excited about it. So we talked about the manual. So orientation. So our first day of our internship program is our orientation. Day one, we set the expectations. You're at the University of Texas, here's what we expect. We talk about, obviously, our dress code, our day-to-day operations. We take them around, give them a campus tour, introduce them to folks, make sure we take them up, introduce them to sports medicine, to sport coaches, to administration, even introducing them to staffs that you wouldn't necessarily always do, custodial staff, the maintenance staff, folks that we work with on a daily basis. We want to get to know those guys by name, because we know those folks, when you need something, guess who's going to make it happen for you fast? It's those kind of folks. So making sure our interns feel like they're a part of the team and they get to know everybody that we work with. And then having some gear, help them to look the part. And if budget, is an issue, which I understand at some small schools, just put a color code on it. At Texas, we say it has to be black, white, gray. If you have some burnt orange, then some burnt orange. That's it. No other colors. So keep it simple. All right, so the last part is the education and evaluation. So our team assignments. When these interns come in, we just don't want them floating around every day, not knowing what to do. First and foremost, we find out their academic schedule. We want to try and set up a schedule that's going to be conducive, again, for them keeping their academics first and foremost. Second, I like to ask the interns, what's your priority? What teams do you really want to work with side by side? And then second, we look at where is our need? Where do we have the largest amount of need for some help? And so based on that criteria, we will put together a schedule for the intern so they know every day, every week, exactly what's going on and what their responsibilities are going to be. With our graduate assistants, we also like to give them one team that is their team. It's a primary team. Depends on the level of graduate student and how much experience they have, but we do eventually have our graduate interns running teams themselves. With one of the coaches overseeing the program that is going on. That goes back to where we talked about the ownership, giving them some actual ownership and getting them ready so that when they leave UT and go on to look for their first full-time job, yeah, I've already ran teams. Yeah, I know how to do all that. I've had to do all the responsibilities that go in to being a good strength and conditioning coach. Roundtable discussions. We talked about, I mentioned earlier, we set aside every Tuesday, we have a performance education day where someone, full-time or part-time staff, presents to all of the interns. And it's a little more formal, obviously related, to things that are strength and conditioning related. And then on Fridays, we have a roundtable where we have the interns all come in and we'll pick a website to discuss and everybody picks an article from there. And that's where it's much more informal and relaxed. Everybody they present their articles and we kind of just throw ideas out there and it's really just talking shop. But we schedule it to make sure that we talk shop at least once a week. Introducing to coaches, I mentioned that, programming and periodization. Providing feedback. This is one thing I definitely wanted to talk about, something we did new this year. So for an intern, do we have any folks that are in here doing internships right now? Excellent. Okay, so you're going to like this. So during an internship's experience, they're constantly being evaluated, right? By by us. What we started this year is we now have asked for an evaluation from you. We want you to evaluate your experience with us. If we don't know what we're doing that's good or what we're doing that's bad, we're never going to get any better. So that was something we started. It's a completely anonymous online thing that we do. Again, it was a software tool that they had in their HR department. I didn't originally know that. I sent Sarah on many long hours of looking for just the right survey that we could do, but stay within the budget or stay within the minimum so we can keep it free and use it. Had no idea until I talked to HR. We have an elaborate tool to use for doing surveys. So we're really excited about using that opportunity to see how we can get better. You have anything?
Can we catch your story?
Oh yeah, go for it. Coach Maib likes to tell stories. Go on.
I'm a storyteller. Last story I got for you, and then Coach is going to close us out. Thank you guys for your attention as well today. So there was an author that loved to write in the summers, and he would go to the beach at his little condo, and he would get up early in the morning, have coffee, and collect his thoughts and write during the summer. So he gets up one morning, he goes to get his coffee. It's real early, the sun's just barely up, coming up over the water on the ocean, and he looks out on the beach, and he noticed that somebody is down the beach pretty far, and it looks like they're dancing. What catches his curiosity, goes out of his condo down to the beach and starts walking toward this individual. As he gets closer, he realizes it's a young man. And he's not dancing. He's reaching down, picking up something, and seems to be throwing it into the ocean. As he gets closer, he realizes there's sand dollars that have washed up over the shore all night, thousands of up and down the shore. And the young man's picking up sand dollars and he's throwing them back in the ocean to save their life. The old author looks at him and laughs. He goes, "Young man, what are you doing? You're not going to be able to make a difference on all these sand dollars' lives." The young man looked at him and kind of laughed and smirked, reached down, grabbed another one, threw it out into the ocean. He goes, "I just made a difference in that one."
So what were our 3 main points today? So we talked about the head, the professionalism. We talked about the heart, taking the time to care. We talked about the hands, developing the practical skills. And then we closed with some practical tools that you can take. Reach out to your HR departments. They can be a tremendous help and a tremendous time saver to you. Before we leave, we want to issue a personal challenge to each of you in here. The best coaches out there are the ones that give back. So before you leave, write down somebody's name right now. A young coach, an intern, someone that you're going to make the time and the effort to give back to. We'd like to thank Chuck and Becky. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you guys,
We'd
Chuck
like
and
to
Becky.
thank the CSCCA organization, and we would love to thank you guys for sticking around. Thank y'all very much. Thank you.